Despite being one of the most popular games in the world, League of Legends only has 3 game modes, and I've come to realize that this is harming the health of League, but I don't believe it needs to stay this way. I now know that League of Legends deserves to have better game modes and a better game mode system. It's time for us to take a look at the current game mode situation, analyze League's competitors and their game modes, and figure out how we can fix League of Legends game modes forever. The current League game mode situation. To clarify, when I'm talking about game modes, I don't mean the main competitive game mode like Summoner's Rift for League. I'm talking about all the other game modes you can play in that game. In current League, we have 3 game mode options always available: All Random, All Mid, or ARAM for short, the Rotating Game Mode, and TFT. ARAM is the primary casual way to play League. Remove the macro, the resource management, and the champion mastery, allowing players to just chill and fight in an endless team fight, lowering the stakes and responsibilities of normal League. Rotating game modes are the second option, but can be hit or miss for much of the player base. The current trend for rotating game modes looks like this: a few days of high player count, and then it drops off a cliff. I thought about why there is this major trend with all these rotating game modes. Then I realized that all of them are just Summoner's Rift with a bit of spice. All of League's game modes, except for TFT, Swarm, and Arena, have you farming minions, killing champions, taking objectives, and destroying a nexus on Summoner's Rift, which is what League players enjoy doing. But I think that Riot needs to realize that if League players want to play a MOBA, they're probably pretty happy playing regular League, considering that's what they signed up to play. But there are some game modes that exist outside the MOBA sphere, and unsurprisingly, these are some of the most popular. Arena, Swarm, and TFT are major standouts in League game modes. Do they take more development time than the 87th release of Earth? Yes, but they give League players something different with the familiarity of champions and mechanics. I could go on about how good these game modes are, but there is a further issue that plagues League game modes, and that is the game mode system. Currently, League of Legends utilizes a rotating game mode system. This means only one game mode is rotated at any time, and once it's gone, you cannot access it until Daddy Riot brings it back, which I think is one of the biggest travesties in League. You cannot even host these game modes in custom games, which means the custom games tab looks like this. So, the current League game mode situation is very limited. Many of the game modes are very similar in the MOBA style, and the most popular game modes are only accessible when Riot allows us to play them. Now let's look at other online competitive games and see what game modes they have and what League can learn from them. While League operates on a rotating game mode system, most other games may have seasonal game modes, but largely have all their game modes available. But there is a system that they all share that League doesn't have, and that is player developer tools, a way for players to develop their own maps and game modes from the assets in the game. This allows for the creation of many more game modes than a single game developer can make by themselves, with the best game modes rising to the top of popularity on the community game mode list. After looking through both developer and player game modes, I've discovered 5 player needs that popular game modes satisfy. These are casualness, community, creativity, learning, and accessibility. Most game modes fall into the casual category because even though we all enjoy the competition of games, you need some casual gameplay to balance it out. Lower stakes, less responsibilities, less thinking, more button mashing. A great example of this is Counter-Strike's game mode Surf. I know Surf can be competitive, but for the average player, Surf is a casual, relaxing game mode to play in Counter-Strike. Using the movement mechanics to surf on the side of slope blocks, Surf lowers the stakes and responsibilities of Counter-Strike. It is just you versus yourself. No teammates relying on you, or you relying on them. A calm movement game to play after getting spin-botted in Premiere. B-Hop also falls into a similar boat, with all of these games having the familiarity of Counter-Strike movement, but placed in a different setting to allow for a new game identity. Game modes are a place for players to socialize without the pressure of winning or versing other players. For many games, voice chat is an important part of this, as you talk amongst the lobby while playing the casual game mode. Socialization may even be integrated into the game, such as in the Counter-Strike game mode Jailbreak. But one of the first game modes that came to mind was unfortunately Tinder Watch. Obviously cringe, but this game mode has literally zero gameplay. People are just there to talk with other Overwatch players. Now, I don't want League to turn into Valorant Swift Play, but I do think League could really use a space like this for socializing. We used to have a region general chat, but that has since been phased out, and the social aspect of League has been depleted year after year. The League community has moved to Discord spaces and Reddit without any good space in League to just relax and socialize. Some game modes give a place for players to go above what the main game mode offers, with further customization and creative features to push its limits. League actually does this kind of game mode quite well, with Arena and many of the rotating game modes pushing the limits of the existing game. But one of the coolest examples of a creative game mode is Dota 2's Ability Draft, a game mode where you draft your abilities from a pool of specific champions, allowing for players to come up with very interesting ability synergies and kits as you design your own champion. Some game modes provide a place to learn or improve, which is extremely important to many competitive games, allowing players to spend countless hours refining their skills. There are many good examples of these game modes: Overwatch character parkour, Counter-Strike aim training maps, and fighting game combo challenges. These maps are good for both new players getting familiar with certain game mechanics, and the most veteran of players continuously improving their skills. But in League, all we have is our flimsy practice tool, where you have to set everything up. It would be so much easier to learn League and improve specific mechanics with game modes targeted at learning. Accessibility game modes are easy or party game modes that take the casual gameplay to another level. These can be an easy jumping off point for new players and a place for groups of players to enjoy no matter their skill levels. Prop Hunt, Death Run, Pudge Wars, Genji Ball. There are many different versions of these party games that have extremely simple mechanics. These game modes make it easier to get your friends who have never played the game to come and enjoy. I think League desperately needs something like this, as even ARAM, the most accessible game mode, has 10 champions a new player needs to understand while struggling to pilot their own champion. There is one singular feature that separates all of these games and their game modes from League of Legends. One thing that could solve all the problems we've covered and create endless opportunities in the future. I'm talking about player developer tools. Now, looking at the new Arena game mode, I'm not saying Riot can't do an amazing job. We've also seen it with Swarm. However, TFT, Arena, and Swarm each take a whole team and lots of funding. As a result, these game modes have to hit well with the community, otherwise they won't be worth the investment from Riot. But just imagine a fraction of that time spent on making those game modes was spent making developer tools for players to utilize. Riot doesn't have to stop making their game modes, but over the long term, taking some time now to make player developer tools would help League's health far into the future. Imagine all the interesting maps you could make with the mechanics of 170 champions. I'm thinking Lee Sin Soccer, official Mundo dodgeball maps, hide and seek game modes, official 1v1 game modes, Ezreal skillshot aim trainer, Riven parkour maps, social maps, party game maps. The possibilities are endless. Honestly, the League player base is already known for their creativity, coming up with new strategies, build parts, and pushing the limits of these 170 champions. I couldn't fathom what the player base would come up with if given access to player developer tools. League would no longer just be Summoner's Rift. Instead, having many spaces where you can meet new players, refine your abilities, and relax after a bunch of solo queue games. League doesn't need to stay in this state. We have such a limited amount of game modes in a game with so much possibility. Looking at other competitive games, it seems like they all do it better than us. My solution of implementing player dev tools may result in complications, but I think it's worth it for the health of League. New players will come a lot easier and may even become obsessed with game modes. It allows League veterans to relax after grinding solo queue games, play party games with friends, and have a laugh. League of Legends is a game built on giving the players tools. In the beginning, Riot did not tell us ADC should play bot. They just gave us this roster of champions and a map and said create your own fun, run wild, and see what happens. So Riot, I think to push into the next frontier of League, you have to give us that trust again. Because without Warcraft 3 giving their players the ability to make maps, League of Legends may never exist today.